Recently, several images of Jungkook at Incheon Airport in South Korea began circulating. These photographs were taken without warning and quickly began generating comments on social media. Many people noticed his arrival and began speculating about the reason for his return to Korea. Among the most discussed assumptions is the possibility that he traveled to say goodbye to his close friend, Cha Eun-woo, who will soon begin his mandatory military service. As those who have followed Jungkook closely throughout his career know, he deeply values his friendships. It has always been evident that he cares for and supports those close to him, especially when it comes to important moments in their lives. In this case, the news of Eunwoo's enlistment did not go unnoticed by Jungkook, and it makes perfect sense that he wanted to be present before his friend began this new chapter. However, as often happens in these cases, some people began creating alternative versions of his arrival. Among them, several rumors emerged claiming that Jungkook had traveled to meet another person with whom he was supposedly in a romantic relationship. Some even claimed that Jungkook's real motive was to have a private meeting with Jimin, ignoring the fact that there is no evidence to support these claims. The truth is that these theories have no solid basis. There are no images or records of Jimin in the places where Jungkook was seen, nor are there any signs indicating that the two met in Korea in recent days. Furthermore, this isn't the first time that certain people have used any of Jungkook's movements as an excuse to link him to Jimin, regardless of the context or the lack of evidence. In reality, Jungkook is in a stable relationship with Taehyung. Their bond has strengthened over the years, and they have publicly shared meaningful moments together. Although both are very discreet about their personal lives, their closeness, mutual support, and shared time offstage make it clear that their relationship goes beyond friendship. They care for each other, support each other, and make decisions together, like many couples who value their privacy. Therefore, there's no reason to assume that Jungkook traveled to Korea for hidden purposes or to have a secret meeting with Jimin. Everything indicates that his trip could be linked to important personal reasons, such as supporting a friend who was about to enlist in the military. These types of gestures are common among people with strong emotional ties, and they don't need to be misinterpreted or transformed into fabricated stories. In short, Jungkook was spotted at Incheon Airport recently, which sparked a wave of rumors about his visit to Korea. Although the exact reason hasn't been confirmed, it's most likely that he went to accompany his friend Cha Eun-woo before his enlistment. There's no evidence that he had a meeting with Jimin, and the theories circulating along those lines are unfounded. Although many people try, and sometimes it even seems like their professional colleagues are making efforts to create a certain distance between them, the reality is that no one can separate Taehyung and Jungkook. The reason is simple: Jungkook always chooses to be with whomever he wants to be with. And in all these moments, it's become clear that someone is Taehyung. On several occasions, when they share space, Jungkook constantly stays close to Taehyung. It shows in small gestures, like when their fingers naturally brush against each other. Even when other members of the group are nearby, like Namjoon, Jungkook's attention always seems to be focused on Taehyung. This connection between them doesn't go unnoticed, even when they try to maintain a certain discretion. There are times when you can see some members of the team signaling to Jungkook from afar, probably asking him to keep a little distance. This happens especially when cameras are rolling or people are watching. Even so, Jungkook doesn't seem to completely distance himself. If he takes a step back, it's only for a few seconds, as if obeying an external cue, but he soon finds himself close to Taehyung again, almost instinctively. It's as if, despite the suggestions, something stronger is drawing him back to him. This constant closeness isn't accidental. Jungkook isn't just there physically, he's there emotionally as well. There's a way he observes Taehyung that can't be faked. These glances reflect something deeper, something that goes beyond a simple friendship or professional coexistence. And while some may try to discredit that connection, the facts speak for themselves. Their interactions, even the simplest, always have a clear emotional undertone. Over time, Taehyung and Jungkook have shown that they don't need to make grand gestures to demonstrate their bond. They don't seek attention or use their closeness as part of a spectacle. On the contrary, many of the things they share happen when they're not acting, when there's no script to follow. It's in these moments that authenticity becomes most evident. Some people say that what happens between them is part of fan service. However, there's a clear difference between something planned and something that arises spontaneously. When Taehyung and Jungkook are together, their naturalness is what stands out. They don't need words to communicate. Often, a glance, a smile, or a small gesture is enough to understand each other. This is something that has been seen in different situations, at concerts, interviews, behind the scenes, and even in more relaxed moments. Even when they try to be discreet, their closeness inevitably appears, and it's not just about being next to each other, but about the way they treat each other, how they look at each other, how they understand each other without speaking. Despite the rumors or the divided opinions among those who follow them, the connection between Taehyung and Jungkook remains strong. They don't need to prove anything to anyone because their relationship doesn't depend on external approval. Sometimes, what is seen between them says much more than any public statement. Even now, after so many years of working together, growing in front of millions of people, their bond remains strong. Whether in professional or personal moments, there is a mutual companionship that has not been broken. And although they often try to hide it behind subtle gestures, the truth is that their closeness remains present, both in the big and small moments. In the end, what unites Taehyung and Jungkook isn't a strategy or a plan to attract attention. It's a real connection, built over time, based on respect, trust, and affection. Each, in their own way, has proven that their relationship is solid. And although there are those who insist on separating them or reinterpreting their actions, the truth is that what they share is something genuine. In the relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook, there's something that always stands out, something that isn't explained with words, but with actions. It's not what they say in interviews, or what they show on social media, but what happens when they're together, in those moments when it seems the world stops turning for them. When they're close, everything changes, their gestures, their way of moving, even their breathing seems to sync up. It's easy for those who observe them closely to notice. It's not a simple brush or a routine greeting. They have a different way of relating, as if they share a language that no one else understands. They touch each other without fear, naturally, like someone touching something they already feel is theirs. They approach without calculating the distance, as if there were no line marking boundaries. And when they look at each other, there's something in that look that needs no explanation, because it says it all. The curious thing is that it doesn't happen just once. It's not an isolated event, but a habit that repeats itself over and over again, as if it were part of their routine. Those who see them for the first time might think it's simple affection, a gesture for the camera. But those who have followed their story know there's something deeper. Because the way they interact doesn't seem faked, it doesn't seem like a simple show. There's a sincerity in their movements that can't be forced. In many recordings, at presentations, or backstage, Taehyung and Jungkook display a closeness that seems taken from a space unique to them. When they're together, it's as if they create a world where words are superfluous. They don't need to say anything to understand each other. Their bodies react naturally, almost instinctively. If one moves, the other follows. If one touches, the other responds, without pause, without hesitation. They are small gestures, but full of meaning, a hand on a shoulder that lingers a second longer than necessary, a smile that appears for no apparent reason, a look that lasts long enough for anyone to sense that there's something special. It doesn't matter if there are cameras in front of them or if they're surrounded by people. They act the same, as if no one else were there, as if the only presence that counted was each other's. Perhaps what's most striking is the natural way in which everything happens. There's no tension, no signs of discomfort. On the contrary, they seem to feel complete when they're together, as if closeness were their most comfortable state. And that says a lot, because authentic connections don't need much proof. They're noticeable, they're felt. Over time, those who follow every detail have seen how that relationship grows and strengthens. It's not just about physical gestures. There are more subtle details, like the way they support each other during difficult times or how they celebrate each other's achievements with a pride that goes beyond friendship. Jungkook, with his energy and intense way of experiencing everything, finds in Taehyung a balance, someone who calms him without quenching him. And Taehyung, with his creative nature and curious outlook, finds in Jungkook a force that drives him to keep moving forward. Together, they form a team that seems to understand each other without words. They share laughs that only they understand, silences that don't bother them, and glances that, to anyone watching, speak louder than any conversation. It's that complicity, built in small moments, that makes their relationship feel so real. And perhaps that's why many can't stop talking about them. Not because they say so, but because they show it, unwittingly, in every gesture, in every encounter, in every moment they share. This isn't proof, it's the very essence of their bond, something that doesn't need to be shouted out to exist.